Hubert Centers here. Let's take a look at a 5-minute chart of the Dow. This will work on the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Russell. And what we're talking about here is the importance of knowing how to trade gaps. Now, you may have a question like, gap, what's a gap? A gap, back in the old days when I first started trading, there was this thing called a pit session when a lot of traders still just traded in the pit. And that pit session was from 9:30 until 4:15. 4:15, that's supposed to be a 1 right there. So this is the 4:15 close, and then this is the 9:30 open. So it causes this gap where most of the cash and a lot of the institutions trade. Okay, now there's not really a gap in the sense that there used to be back in the day when I first started trading, because everything is traded electronically now, and most markets are only down for about 45 minutes. But you can still use the gap theory to pull some profits out of the market if you know how to do it. So the first thing you're looking for is how big is the gap, and I'm talking about the Dow. So for 1 point in the ES, which is the E-mini, it's going to be equal to 10 points in the Dow mini, okay? So in this case scenario, when you have such a small gap, you have a good shot of it doing a half a gap fill. Half a gap fill happens about 80% of the time, and then a full gap fill happens about 76% of the time. So one thing that you need to take into consideration when you're doing this is you've got to ask yourself a few questions. So on a uptrending market like we have right now, gap downs will be more profitable than, say, gap ups will, because when you get a gap down, you're going to buy it. You're going to buy this, okay, with the anticipation of going for half a gap fill or a full gap fill. Now, also think about taking some profits when you get to a half a gap fill and when you get to a full gap fill, because they tend to be resistant. So what I'm going to do here, I hate cherry picking stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll back and show you some examples. So here's an example. On this case scenario, we're still in an uptrending market. This one's probably not going to fill as easily as a gap down would. Here is a full gap fill, and you can see we did not get that, but we did get a half a gap fill. Notice on a half a gap fill, that was some good support. All right, now let me move this back down to a pointer here really quickly. And we are going to continue to go back and show you just one or two more examples. Here's a good example. You have a small gap up. That one's really not worth taking because it's so small. And then last but not least, we'll go back one more day. Here's where we had that real big, large gap down. You just have to use a little bit larger stop on these. Here's where you buy this, and then you've got a half a gap fill, which is angling in about right here, and then a full gap fill. You can see that it had some resistance. I'm going to use the horizontal line just so you can kind of see it a little bit more accurate. So there's where it closed. And you can see resistance, 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 resistance. So that set up well. If you want to look at an accurate half a gap fill, what you do is from the close there to the open here, and there's a half a gap fill. So keep that in mind when you're trading gaps. Good luck. Hope it helps, and I'll see you on the next video.